According to the Global Startup Ecosystem Index by Startup Link, which assesses countries' startup economies, China ranked 10th in the world and the first in East Asia in 2022. The top cities for startups in China were Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, with other major cities including Hangzhou, Guangzhou, Chengdu, Wuhan, Changsha, and Nanjing. Given the relatively loose definition of a startup, there are no concrete figures on the number of startup companies in China. However, according to Forbes China, there were over 368 unicorns in 2022, with 74 new ones added from the previous year. Meanwhile, Chinese economist Ren Zeping estimates the total valuation of China's unicorns in 2022 to be at 9.4 trillion yuan. Some major names in China's startup space include She e-commerce valued at 97.5 billion yuan in 2022, DJI high-end hardware valued at 100 billion yuan in 2022, WebBank Fintech valued at 200 billion yuan in 2022, and ByteDance. Beyond the billion-dollar companies, the number of startups is likely in the tens of thousands. The Ministry of Industry and Information Technology states that in 2022 an average of 23,800 new companies were established every day, and the number of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises exceeded 52 million. Among these were 70,000 so-called specialized, refined, special, and innovative small and medium-sized companies. These included 8,997 little giants, which are pioneer companies that dominate certain market segments and have great potential for innovation. According to research by Ren Zeping, the largest proportion of unicorns were in e-commerce, healthcare, and hardware, with around 12.9% of unicorns being in e-commerce and healthcare and 12.1% in hardware. By market valuation, the largest sector by far was new media, which accounted for 28.2% of the total valuation of all unicorns in China, although this result may have been skewed by the inclusion of TikTok owner ByteDance, which is the single largest unicorn by valuation in both China and the world. This was followed by fintech, with fintech unicorns accounting for 16.1% of the total valuation. Various high-tech sectors are also receiving significant attention in the startup space. According to Itjuzi, a startup database and information service provider, of the 327 companies in the new economy that were established and received financing at the end of 2022, 36 were in biotechnology and drug manufacturing, 23 were in integrated circuits, 18 were in new materials, 17 were in new energy, and 14 were in metaverse industry applications. Projects that received funding in the IC industry, which is an important growth industry for the Chinese government, included FPGA chips, litter, packaging materials, new generation semiconductor materials, and automotive-grade chips. There were also some startups in more niche and emerging industries that received funding in 2022, such as companies operating in the NFT, pet services, sodium-ion batteries, camping, and perovskite materials for solar energy batteries. VC funding and investment in Chinese startups has been on the rise for the last decade, and interest in the Chinese market from venture capital firms has also increased. According to a report from Crunchbase, China surpassed the US as the #1 destination for venture capital investment for the first time in the second half of 2018, although this was driven largely due to the large sum of funds raised by Ant Financial. According to data from Statista, the number of new VC investments in China has risen steadily since 2010 and reached 5,208 investments worth a combined 371 billion yuan in 2021, following a slowdown in 2019 and 2020.